So with the first NBA preseason games being in the book, we have also come across some more interesting news regarding Walker Kessler. Now, as some people would remember, over the offseason, he was garnering some attention, some false attention, some questionable attention regarding whether or not he was going to be tradable, or more so, if people actually wanted to trade for him, because there were rumors swirling out there with the main team being the New York Knicks. Well, now, thanks to Mark Stein, we now know what exactly was going on with that whole thing. And apparently, according to his inside news, it was a lot more likely than we originally anticipated to be and a lot more real than we thought it would be. With that being said, it's your boy Ray Hoops. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. We're going to go ahead and dive into what the specifics were of the trade, why it didn't happen, and what its implications could be for the future. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this one. So obviously, in hindsight, the New York Knicks ended up grabbing Karl-Anthony Townes in a blockbuster move, sending off Donte DiVincenzo along with Julius Randle to the Minnesota Timberwolves. But before that, they were trying very hard to apparently get Walker Kessler. But Danny Ainge in that front office said, we want at least 2 future first-round picks, which seems kind of steep for a guy that didn't end up progressing in his sophomore year. His rookie year, he looked really promising, but in his second year, he kind of took a dip, and then John Collins ended up fitting the scheme that Will Hardy wanted to run a little bit better, and because of the lack of overall aggressiveness and production and free throw efficiency from a shooting standpoint, Walker Kessler ended up losing his job and was relegated to the bench. Despite that, though, he was still one of the top 5 rim protectors in the league last season, as he was the previous year of his rookie season. With that being understood, they actually felt as though, at least from the Utah Jazz side of things, that he was worth 2 first-round picks, but not only that, that they should have little to no protections put on them, which is very interesting to say because obviously he is in a little bit of a downstroke. Not to say that he's lost all of his value, but a lot of people expected more from him his sophomore year. So the fact that he was unable to and still ended up making something shake to this degree, at the very least from the front office, says one of 2 things. Either A, Danny Ainge is just playing hardball and he really wants to get the most out of anything that anybody wants to trade for, or B, and what I feel like is the more likely out of the 2, Walker Kessler, they feel, has the ability to get the job done, and they expect him to get the job done. They expect him to get better. They expect his offensive game to round itself out. Yes, they understand what he is defensively as a rim protector. Yes, he does decently in the pick and rolls. They think he can pick that up. They think he can be more physical. They think he can assert his dominance in the paint offensively. Those are all things that I think they would expect him to get better at, particularly this season, because the jobs for the starting lineup and even for minutes in general are going to be hard to come by for some people, which means you're going to have to compete for everything. And after John Collins said in media day speakings that he takes pride in being a starter, he's not about to just give up that spot and let Walker walk in and take those minutes. He's going to have to earn them and take them from John Collins, which healthy competition is great, and I think John Collins is going to be a stout locker room presence regardless, but I think that this level of competition will end up boosting what Walker Kessler believes in for himself. And if nothing else, because they were expecting so much in a trade for him, this should to let him know that the front office does, at the very least to a certain degree, expect him to be a success and expect him to develop into a premier cornerstone for this roster and this franchise going forward. One thing that is interesting to note, which kind of plays into why the trade never even really had the ability to occur, was because most of the draft picks that the New York Knicks had, they ended up sending over to Brooklyn because they wanted Mikal Bridges, which understandably so makes sense, but with what little they had left, they just didn't want to give that forward. And they ended up making a pretty solid deal with a player that I think fits their scheme a little bit better. Yes, they are going to be without Isaiah Hartenstein because he left in free agency. Now he's with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and nobody's talking about how crazy that is. And then how they got Alex Caruso for a bargain. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. And then they also have Mitchell Robinson, who's expected to be out until at least January right now by projections. So, honestly, Walker Kessler, I think, would have fit in well there, but not as great as the ultimate move that they ended up making, adding in the one and only Karl-Anthony Townes. I believe that this year for Walker Kessler specifically will end up being one that defines who people will view him as going forward. Yes, his rookie year was really, really good, all things considered. His second year was obviously a lackluster performance all in all. There were some bright spots here and there, but there wasn't nearly enough to overcompensate for the lack of shine that there was at other points, whether it be from his lack of aggressiveness, his lack of overall paint presence, the fact that John Collins was just consistently, honestly, a better and more tenacious rebounder than himself. I think that we could see a renewed vigor about himself coming into this season, and I would dare say I expect to see that from him. There's no reason why we should be concerned with him being what he was last year. I don't think it gets worse than that for Walker Kessler, because most of it really comes down to energy and effort. Being willing to get fouled going to the rim, being willing to go up strong. Even if you get the ball swatted out of your hands and you get blocked, whatever the case may be, that just comes with the game. And I personally am fine with that, to be quite honest with you, because that shows you're trying. If you're giving the effort and it just doesn't get done, I can live with that. But when you're choosing, or it comes off as a viewer, that you are choosing not to make certain plays because you think it will not work or it may not be effective, it kind of takes away from what I view you as, particularly as a player. Because honestly, I feel like he is capable of doing things. I wish he put on a little bit more muscle mass this offseason. He didn't really seem to do much. We saw a lot of Larry Markkinen, and that man looks absolutely jacked. And like him having an entire offseason of NBA prep was awesome, because the previous year he had to serve in the Finnish army, doing that sort of thing. So really just having the opportunity overall for himself to play alongside Lowry in more extended minutes, to show us what we expect of him, and to also have, to a certain extent, the back of the front office saying, hey, we're not just going to throw you away and ship you off to the graveyard because you had one down year that really wasn't terrible. You're just a young player who's still trying to find yourself and find who you are as a player. Right now, we expect a lot from you, but we are also willing to be patient with you. And I think that's the biggest thing, because there's a lot of teams that end up throwing a guy out there and then running him ragged, and they don't end up panning out a certain way, and then everybody feels some sort of way and considers them a bust, when in fact they just needed a different level of approach and a different way of teaching in a lot of situations. I think Walker Kessler has as good an opportunity as any, and to be quite honest, if he ends up lollygagging and things don't go out too well, I think that Kyle Filipowski will provide us with some interesting blend of what Walker does along with what John Collins does, because he is a pretty decent shooter. He did show it in Summer League, and it took him a little bit to get going, but once his confidence was hitting, he was hitting those shots crazy. And while I think we'll probably see the most minutes that he'll play in a Utah Jazz uniform right now in the preseason, I do think that he'll have small spurts in the regular season if injuries end up coming up, or just close to the end of the season when we try and shut down Larry Markkinen or Colin Sexton because of, injuries, because we're tanking. But either way, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Do you think that Walker Kessler was worth 2 first-round picks unprotected at that? Or do you think that there was some sort of message that was being tried to be sent by the front office when they sat there and made that move? Either way, now other teams know the market for ballpark, what everybody's expecting for Walker Kessler to get traded for. So maybe we could see more deals end up going out his way. But either way though, we'll find out soon, and I'm sure when that time comes, you'll be able to find that information on this channel right here. So without any further ado, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and become a member or subscribe to the channel via donation to help support the content. With that being said, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. As always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.